Hey, what's up guys? So in the last video, we took a look at all the new features and capability here in these upgraded Viofo A329S and A329T dashcams. In this video, let's go ahead and unbox them and take a closer hands-on look at these new flagship dashcams. Then we'll also go ahead and plug them in and turn them on so that we can take a look at all the new settings and features built into the dashcams here too. Now, with this updated A329 series, they're all basically the same thing, just with different add-on cams, and so we'll go ahead and unbox just one of these here. This is the one that has the interior cabin cam, but you can also swap it out with like a telephoto. They also then make waterproof cams as well, but it's all basically the same thing. Additionally, it's also worth noting that Viofo is going to be slightly updating this packaging here because there's been some confusion with some of these initial batches. For example, the dashcam does support 4K and 60 FPS, but not if you're running with a full 3-channel setup. And so this does seem a little bit misleading. And so they're going to be changing this to say 4K and HDR if you're going for a full 3-channel setup. If you're running just 1 to 2 cameras, then yes, you can do 4K and 60 FPS. We can still take a look at the side of the boxes here to get a better idea of some of the features and capabilities available here. And on the back, they also share a bit more in terms of specs and features in a variety of different languages. But really, it's what's inside the box that I'm most interested in. So let's take a closer look at that. And opening things up, we've got some documentation as far as like warranty and after sales help, as well as a quick start guide. And the quick start guide is going to help us get familiar with the dash cam as well as some of the wiring. And it covers some of the initial setup stuff like installing the optional static sticker, formatting the memory card, and getting things set up here with the app. The different dashcam components come packaged here in these little bags. And the dashcams themselves all come with these little plastic covers over the different lenses. The same is true here for the front lens as well. And you're going to want to make sure that you peel this off before installing it in the car. That way it can see clearly. And the same is true for the protective LCD cover that comes in the package as well. Now, something that I find interesting is that the dashcam is actually labeled as A329, just like the original A329. It doesn't say A329S, T, WW, or anything like that. And so it may be a little bit confusing as far as which model you have. That said, when you're upgrading the dashcams, you do want to make sure that you grab the proper firmware for your specific version of this A329S, T, or WW. That way your dashcam works properly with whichever add-on cameras you choose. Then continuing on, it looks like we've got some more stuff here under the packaging foam, including things like the full user manual for the dashcam, 3 different static stickers, which make it easier to uninstall this dashcam here if you want to upgrade down the line. Additionally, they include some replacement double stick tape here for the different dash cams. So again, if you ever need to remove the mount, you can then use a replacement tape here and install this into another car or something. And they give you this sticker here for your car to let other people know that you're running a Viofo dash cam. And then everything else, including all the different cables that you'll need to install the dash cam, are going to be down under here. And then taking a closer look at what all was at the bottom of the box here, we've got 2 different cables here to connect the different cameras. We've got a longer cable to connect the front and rear camera, and then a shorter cable to connect the front and interior cameras. By default, this one is going to be 6 meters long, and this one is going to be 1 meter long. But on the website, you do have the ability to customize this. You can choose a longer cable for the front to the rear, for example, in case maybe you're installing in a larger vehicle. Alternatively, for the interior or telephoto cams, you can also choose a shorter cable if you're going to be installing the 2 pretty close together. For example, here's one of the shorter cables. It's just 0.3 meters or about a foot long. And so when you get in your car before you order, you can actually kind of measure stuff out to get a better idea as far as what you should order. Additionally, we've got things like a vehicle trim tool here to help you tuck these cables behind the vehicle trim. We've got the power cable, which includes a cigarette lighter plug like this, and it's got 2 USB Type-C ports. One is going to be for the dash cam. The other one is going to be to plug in another device, such as your cell phone. And then you've got the USB cable here like this that runs from the power cable to the dash cam. We've also got a shorter USB Type-C cable if you want to plug the dash cam into your computer and access the video files that way. And then we've also got a circular polarizer available here in the package too. And if you want to hardwire the dash cam and not use the cigarette lighter cable to keep your install cleaner and not have this take up your cigarette lighter plug, they do sell some different hardwire cables. Currently, they've got the HK4 cable available, which is going to work fine for most everything. That said, they are going to be releasing the HK6, which is not available yet, but it's basically the same thing as the HK4. However, it's also going to be passing some voltage information over to the dash cam to help with some of the hybrid parking mode capabilities. I'll cover this kind of stuff more once we actually get into the parking mode testing, but basically for most people that's going to be just fine. You can still use the low power parking recording stuff. You can still have it automatically switch from regular parking mode to low powered parking mode by using using the timer, and I'll show you the settings here in just a second. The only thing you're not going to get with the HK4 is the ability to have it switch when it drops below a certain voltage, because the dash cam doesn't actually get the voltage information. Additionally, in the next video, I also want to take a look at the A229 Pro and the A329, specifically some of the design differences here compared to this latest camera, and as far as like what cables and components are going to be compatible for those of you guys who are curious about upgrading from one of the previous models. But coming back here to this updated A329S series, now that we've got everything unboxed, let's put everything together and get it all fired up so we can take a look at some of the new settings and options available in this new dash cam. And with the wiring and installation, we got to make sure we can tell the differences here between our different add-on cameras. And at first it can be a little bit confusing because all the different add-on cams look basically the same. There is a little bit of a difference here with the fisheye lens here in the center that does bubble out a little bit more compared to the rear camera here on the left or the telephoto lens over here on the right. Fortunately though, Viofo has labeled the sides of the different cameras to help avoid any confusion, something they didn't need to do for the rear cam on the original A329. And then to plug in these add-on cams, we're just going to use the different ports here on the side of the dash cam. We've got the rear cam right there and the interior cabin cam right there. And so we'll go ahead and gently plug in the cable here first for the rear cam. Then we'll plug in the rear camera itself on the other end of the cable, just being careful here to make sure that we don't damage anything with these delicate connectors. Then we can repeat the process here for the interior camera, and then we can plug in the camera itself here too. Then for power, we'll plug in here to the blue port labeled dash cam. And then on top of the dash cam here on this quick release mount, there's actually a port here labeled power. So we'll just plug our power cable right into that port. And next, let's power on our dash cam here for the first time. We'll choose a language and hit English. Then we can choose our time zone here. Okay, let's do miles per hour. And there's no memory card included with the dash cam, so we'll go ahead and just plug in one that I've got here. You are going to have to buy one separately. It also looks like we've got updated firmware available for the dash cam over on Viofo's website, so we'll grab that too. Then we'll copy that file to the dash cam's memory card, plug it into the dash cam, and power it back on here. And we can go ahead and start the update process. We basically just take that update file, copy it over to the micro SD card on the dash cam, put the card back in the camera, let it power up and update here like this. And looks like we're up and running here with the 3 different cameras. We've got the rear and fisheye one, as well as the front camera like that. Now, I've done a video in the past that you can check out going over the different settings and options available here in the Viofo dash cams. I actually did that video on the original A329, so a lot of the stuff here is going to overlap, and you can check that out to learn more about all the different settings and options available here. However, I'm really curious to check out the new options available here in this updated A329S. So we'll stop recording. And then we're going to dive into the menu here like this, and let's start here with the video settings. Now with the resolution options, we've got a couple different options here when you're running with the full 3-channel configuration. So you can see we can do 4K at 30 FPS, and then we've got 2K here for the other add-on cams. You can also do different aspect ratios here, like 21:9 instead of 16:9, or you can go down to 2K or even 1080p if you prefer, and you want to save some space on your memory card. That said, I'm going to go straight to 4K because that's why I got this camera. Then we've got the HDR option. We've got the ability here to choose them on or off like this. I am curious to see if I turn off HDR, if I can do, let's see, 60 FPS, and nope, I can't. However, if I power off the dash cam and unplug one of the channels like the cabin camera, in this case then, if we go back here into the video settings, as you can see, we do have a lot more options available here, including now 4K and 60 FPS available. So we do have 60 if you want that with 1 or 2 channels, but not with the full 3. And as always, if we select that here, but we go down and enable HDR, like for the front camera, for example, when we go back, we should actually lose, the 60 FPS. 60 is only available with HDR turned off. Personally, I find HDR to be much more helpful, and I'm totally cool with losing 60 FPS, but that's a quick heads up as far as how that works. If you want, you also, of course, have the ability to go in here and have like an auto HDR option where HDR will be off at a certain time, let's say after 7 a.m. or whatever time you want here like this. And then in that case, it could run at 60 FPS, and then maybe when it gets darker, like at night, it could switch to HDR turned on and actually give you the benefits of HDR, which is mostly going to be helpful at night. Something that people have been finding is that the interior camera is probably going to be most helpful to have HDR on full time, and I'll explain this a little bit more once we actually get to the testing here for the cabin camera. And speaking of this interior cabin cam, we've got an option here for the fisheye mode. You can have it fisheye on altogether to give you like the full fisheye view, or you can actually narrow it down slightly to give you a more traditional fisheye view that kind of cuts off the corners a little bit. And for that fisheye cam's infrared LED, you can control how that works. Either have it off all the time, on all the time, or an auto where it kind of turns on at night when you need it most and then turns off during the day. We also have the ability for that interior camera to control when it's operating. Do you want it on all the time, off all the time for privacy or whatever? Do you want it only on while driving and then maybe turn it off while you're parked to save power on your battery? Or maybe you don't want it on while you're driving if you're concerned about that, but having it on while you're parked. So you do have the controls here for how you want it to function. And speaking of parking recording, we've got the settings here. If we take a look for vehicle battery protection, we can choose the cutoff time here with basically how long it shuts off, of course. That way it saves your battery. But what's new here is the fact that we've got the cutoff voltage option. Now you are going to need the new hardwire kit. It's interesting that it says that it requires a Bluetooth hardwire kit. Maybe that's a typo or something. That's the new HK6 that I talked about that's not available yet. But once that's available, I'm sure this part here will function. And then going into some of the other parking recording options for parking recording mode, we've got all the traditional ones we had before. Like here's the super night vision that was added in the original A329. We've also got our time-lapse modes. And then we've got our just continuous low bitrate recording for audio and video, and then auto event detection for like buffered motion and impact detection. I'm not seeing the option here for the low powered long-term parking recording, so I'm gonna have to find that. And speaking of which, a special shout out to Retro Car Guy 530 for sharing the solution to this. It turns out this is not gonna work if you're using the cigarette lighter power cable. Instead, you do have to use one of the hardwire cables. And I've got it plugged in right now with the HK4. And the idea is once you do that, as long as you go into the vehicle battery protection option and you choose one of the options here, I've got the cutoff timer set right now to 8 hours. I'm not going to be able to do the voltage option because this is not the HK6, it's only the HK4. However, once you do that, now you can go into the parking recording modes, and now you can see we have these two new options here. We've got hybrid parking recording, and we have the low power impact detection, in addition to all of the other options here, like we had before. Now, the idea with low power impact detection, you can turn this on, and again, the dash cam will be in like a low power state for long-term parking recording, and then after an impact, 2 seconds later, it'll wake up and start recording. With hybrid, a little bit different. Again, I'll go into more detail and testing with this in the parking recording video. But if you do this, you can choose like what the default option is initially. So you can do your time lapse at 1 FPS, low bitrate, or you can do event detection, where it's buffered motion detection and impact detection. And it'll do whatever it is that you want initially, and then after the set period of time, remember I'd selected 8 hours, then it switches to the low power impact detection only mode. So that's how this one works here, again, as long as you're using one of the hardwire cables. The last thing that I wanted to quickly touch on here is the multiplexer option. We've got the option here to choose kind of like which video angles we want to combine, either everything off with individual video files. We can combine just like front and interior, front and rear, or combine all three into a single file with front, interior, and rear. Again, I'll have a whole other video that goes into this in more detail with demos and taking a look at any video quality differences and whatnot. But either way, now that we've got these dash cams here unboxed and ready to go, let's get them installed and start off with our testing. In the meantime, if you'd also like to order a dash cam, I'll have links in the video description to where you can pick them up. Stay tuned for a bunch more videos going over these different dash cams, testing all these new features as I continue to learn about these new models. Thanks again for watching. I hope you're all doing great, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.